There is a silent voice that has been speaking inside you since before you could form a single word. It speaks when you rise and when you sleep. It comments on your body, your worth, your money, your relationships, your place in this world. It does not shout. It does not need to. It whispers behind every thought, beneath every feeling, under every choice you make. And without your conscious permission, it has been shaping the entire script of your life. You do not hear it the way you hear these words now. You feel it as a mood, a sense of, this is how things are for me. It is the quiet conviction that says, I am always behind. I never have enough. People cannot be trusted. My body is weak. Life is hard. Or in another person, I am supported. I am guided. Everything works out for me. I am loved. This inner conversation, this unbroken murmur of assumptions and expectations is not a harmless stream of thoughts. It is a creative power. It is law in your world. What you are about to discover is not a new idea, yet it will feel like entering a sacred chamber that has always existed within you. This knowledge has been whispered through the ages in temples and scriptures, in quiet rooms where men and women of understanding sat in stillness and listened to the deeper currents of mind. Today we clothe it in the language of neuroscience, psychology, and energy, but the essence remains the same. Your subconscious mind is the silent architect of your experience, and your inner conversation is its blueprint. Deep within your brain, millions of neurons fire in patterns that scientists call neural networks. These patterns are not random. They reflect your most repeated thoughts, your most rehearsed stories about yourself and life. Each time you think, nothing ever works for me, a trace is left in your nervous system. Each time you rehearse, I am not safe, I am not enough, a pathway is strengthened. The brain, through the wonder of neuroplasticity, records your inner dialogue as instruction. Over time, it reorganizes its wiring to match the script you are running inside. In the language of the mystics, this inner script belongs to the subconscious mind, the great mental factory beneath the surface of awareness. It is like an infinite power plant, humming in silence, translating your habitual thoughts and feelings into conditions, events, and relationships. What you feel to be true, it accepts as a command. It does not argue, it does not judge, it does not distinguish between what is good for you and what is harmful. It simply takes the impressions you supply through your inner conversation and expresses them as life. Consider this for a moment. Every cell in your body is constantly listening. Your heart, generating an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your physical form, is listening. Your nervous system, with its subtle circuitry of sensation and emotion, is listening. The field around you, that subtle quantum sea of potential in which all things arise and take shape, is listening. The universe you walk in responds to the frequency of your inner speech, as faithfully as an echo in a canyon responds to your shout. Tone becomes less frantic and more assured, compassionate, and firm. This tone is a vibrational signature. It signals to your subconscious and to the universal field, I am ready to live from a higher assumption. As this assumption stabilizes, your identity changes. You are no longer merely someone trying to get things from life. You become a conscious participant in the creative process. You recognize yourself as a mental and spiritual being, temporarily clothed in a body, moving through experiences that mirror your inner state. This realization does not make you detached or cold. On the contrary, it softens you. You become kinder to yourself and others because you understand the power of inner speech. You see that many who harm or limit others are themselves trapped in painful inner conversations they did not choose. You begin to use your speech, both inner and outer, as a healing force. You speak to others in a way that calls forth their strength rather than reinforcing their weakness. You hold them, in your mind, as capable and guided even when they cannot see it themselves. In doing so, you are practicing a higher form of prayer. You are addressing the divine blueprint within them rather than their temporary confusion. The more you live in this way, The more your own subconscious is saturated with images and feelings of cooperation, goodwill, and abundance. Life responds. You find doors opening in unexpected places, ideas arriving in quiet moments, help appearing when you need it. You understand that these are not random miracles. They are the natural outworking of a mind that has aligned its inner conversation with universal law. As we come toward the end of this journey together, know that nothing essential has been left unsaid. The principles are simple, though their application is profound. The subconscious mind is always listening. Belief is the law of lies. Fee. Your inner conversation becomes your outer world. Prayer is not begging, but mental conditioning. Imagination is the blueprint of creation. Emotional states are instructions to your nervous system and to the field around you. Silence and secrecy give your new assumptions time to root. Repetition with feeling rewires your brain and reprograms your subconscious. Divine intelligence is the source and substance of all that you desire to express. From this moment on, you are no longer a passive recipient of your own thoughts. You are their author. You no longer accept every inner phrase as truth. You listen, you discern, and you choose. When a thought arises that diminishes you, you recognize it as an echo of old programming, not a prophecy. You answer it with a new word, a new assumption, grounded in the understanding that you are an expression of infinite intelligence, capable of learning, healing, and creating. Tonight, when you lie down to sleep, you will remember that the last 10 minutes before sleep are a sacred meeting with your deeper self. You will choose your words with care. You might say, "Subconscious mind, you are my faithful servant. I now give you new orders. From this moment, you accept only thoughts that affirm my worth, my safety, my abundance, my love. You orchestrate my body, my relationships, my work in harmony with divine order. I thank you for doing so." You will let these words sink in, not as effort, but as a gentle surrender. In the morning, as you wake, you will notice the first thoughts that arise. If they lean toward worry, you will not scold yourself. You will simply turn the wheel, choosing a new inner statement. Today, I walk in peace. Today, I am receptive to good. Today, I remember who I am. You will breathe and let this tone set the frequency of your day. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, your life will begin to echo this shift. You will react differently to old triggers. Opportunities that once intimidated you will feel natural. The same world, seen through the lens of a new inner conversation, will reveal pathways that were invisible before. What changed? Not the universe, you. You will encounter challenges still. Life in this realm includes contrast and growth. Yet you will meet these challenges differently. You will remember that your first and greatest power is not to manipulate outer conditions, but to choose your inner response. You will remember that how you speak to yourself in the midst of difficulty determines what seeds you are planting for tomorrow. You will find yourself saying, even when the surface is rough, "Somewhere in this, there is good unfolding. I may not see it yet, but I choose to align with it. I choose to trust the intelligence that has carried me this far." In this trust, there is great freedom. You no longer live as a victim of circumstances or of your own mind. You live as a steward of consciousness, tending the garden within. You understand that each thought of love, each moment of compassion for yourself or another, each quiet affirmation of truth sends ripples through your nervous system, through your field, through the web of life itself. Your inner conversat. Man is not a small thing. It is the axis on which your world turns. So, as this time together draws to a close, let a new sentence form gently on the screen of your mind. I am now choosing my inner conversation with wisdom and love. I speak to myself as life itself would speak to me, with patience, with strength, with assurance. I agree inwardly with health, with abundance, with peace. I accept that I am one with divine intelligence, and I allow that intelligence to express through me. Let this be not a momentary inspiration, but the quiet beginning of a new way of being. You do not need to move mountains today. You need only guide the next thought, the next phrase, the next inner response. Step by step, word by word, feeling by feeling, you are changing the blueprint in the mental factory of your subconscious. The machinery of life responds. And so, with calm certainty, know this: your transformation does not begin in some distant future when everything outside is perfect. It begins here, in this instant, with the simple willingness to think differently about yourself and your world. It begins with the decision to no longer lend your inner voice to fear and limitation, but to truth and possibility. As you persist in this new inner conversation, your subconscious mind, that infinite silent power within you, will align your body, your circumstances, and your path to match it. All creation begins in consciousness. All change begins with a new thought, accepted as true and felt as real. The power has always been within you, waiting for your recognition. Now you know. If the words within you are saturated with fear, the echo that returns is a life filled with fearful conditions. If the words within you are saturated with lack, the echo that returns is shortage, delay, and frustration. If the words within you are saturated with quiet, deep conviction of good, of order, of harmony, that conviction writes itself into the script of your days. You may have believed that your circumstances came first and your thoughts followed, that life treated you a certain way, and then you formed your beliefs about it. Yet there is a deeper order, a spiritual law behind the visible sequence of events. The inner world precedes the outer. The cause precedes the effect. The conversation you keep with yourself is the root, and what you live through is the fruit. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Think of a garden. The soil does not care what seeds you plant. It does not resist the thorns and welcome only the roses. It accepts every seed with equal readiness, breaks it open, and expresses its nature. The subconscious mind is the garden of your life. Your inner conversation, your mental images, your emotions are the seeds. Whether you plant fear or faith, resentment or forgiveness, lack or abundance, the soil says, "Yes, let it be so," and brings it forth according to its kind. Now bring into view a human life, perhaps one that you have known, perhaps some aspects of your own. A child grows up hearing, "We never have enough money. People like us must struggle. Don't expect too much." These phrases are repeated not once, but hundreds, thousands of times, woven into daily conversations, sighed in moments of stress, muttered under the breath of parents who themselves inherited such words. The child does not analyze or reject. The subconscious is open, impressionable, like soft clay. Those statements become law. Years later, that child, now an adult, sits at a kitchen table late at night, a stack of bills spread out like accusing letters. A feeling rises, familiar and heavy. Of course, this is how it always goes for me. The person believes they are describing reality. They do not realize that reality is answering a script written long ago. We never have enough. People like us must struggle. The subconscious, faithful servant that it is, has arranged circumstances, opportunities, choices to match the inner decree. Yet nothing in that scene is final. No pattern, no matter how old, is eternal. The very brain that wired itself around those beliefs can rewire. The very subconscious that accepted unwise orders can receive new instruction. The same power that manifested limitation can just as easily manifest freedom when given a new blueprint. The laws of the mind are impartial. They are like gravity, consistent, unwavering. Belief is the law of life. What you accept as true for yourself, with feeling, repeated and sustained, becomes flesh, becomes fact. In modern terms, your subconscious programming runs your behaviors, your micro-choices, your posture, your tone of voice, your responses to opportunity, your tolerance for good. In spiritual terms, your subconscious is the silent engine that drives the chariot of your destiny. Pause for a moment and turn your attention inward. Without forcing anything, notice the tone of the voice that thinks about your future. Not the surface voice that says, "Of course I want things to work out," but the deeper murmur that answers quietly, "But they never last. I don't know how. It's too late for me. This deeper murmur is where your work begins. This is the inner conversation that must be redeemed. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It does not rest when you sleep. It does not turn away when you are distracted. It is like a vast spiritual recorder, taking in your words, your emotions, your images, and then projecting them onto the screen of your life. Every complaint you rehearse, every story of helplessness you tell and retell, is like a command spoken into this infinite intelligence. Every quiet moment of gratitude, every gentle affirmation of good, every time you choose peace over panic is also a command. In the language of universal law, nothing is lost. Every impression is accounted for. There is no idle word in consciousness. This is why the ancient teachings have always revered silence. To those who understand, silence is not emptiness, it is power. It is the moment when you step back from the noisy world of appearances and enter the inner temple where your real life is being written, moment by moment. To change your life, you must change what is written there. Let us walk slowly and gently into the mechanics of this change. One of the great gifts of this age is that science, in its own way, has begun to confirm what the mystics have always known. Neuroscience tells us that repeated thought reshapes the brain. Emotional patterning literature shows that states of fear, shame, or chronic stress create loops that perpetuate themselves both biologically and psychologically. Somatic research has revealed that the body stores unprocessed emotion, and that when we bring awareness and compassion to these stored states, they can dissolve and reorganize. What is all this if not an echo of an ancient truth? The inner world governs the outer. The unseen patterns of thought and feeling outpicture as health or disease, abundance or lack, peace or conflict. Yet we must be very clear. You are not being punished by your subconscious. You are not being judged by the universe. You are simply experiencing the harvest of seeds planted, often unconsciously, often by others, often long ago. And just as a farmer can choose new seeds, you can choose new inner words, new emotional tones, new images. When you persist in them, the subconscious accepts them as the new law and begins to reorder your world accordingly. Imagine now, not a command shouted with strain and effort, but a quiet, steady conversation with your deeper self. This is what true prayer is. Not begging an external power to intervene, but communicating with the divine intelligence that lives in your own subconscious mind. Scientific prayer, as we might call it, is the art of presenting to the subconscious a clear, affirmative pattern, impregnated with feeling and allowing universal law to do the rest. In this kind of prayer, you do not plead, "Please let me have enough." You calmly assert, "The infinite source of all supply is now guiding me, prospering me, and providing for me richly. My subconscious mind is full of ideas of abundance. Money flows to me freely, constantly, and in perfect ways." You do not affirm this with tension, trying to force the world to change. You affirm it as a mental blueprint, a seed, a pattern. You feel into the reality of it as if it were already true. You let your nervous system taste the relief, the gratitude, the security of it. Then you release it into silence, trusting that the infinite power within you knows exactly how to bring it into expression. Your subconscious responds to feeling, not force. It answers the emotional charge behind your words. If you say, "I am prosperous," but underneath you tremble with fear and insist repeatedly throughout the day, "I never have enough," the subconscious takes its cue from the dominant feeling, the most rehearsed narrative. That is why the transformation of your inner conversation is both an intellectual art and an emotional alchemy. Emotional alchemy means that you do not fight your fear, your doubt, your grief. You acknowledge them as states that have had their time. You recognize them as energy being held in certain patterns in your body and mind. Then gently, you introduce a new state: peace, trust, surrender, gratitude. You breathe into your heart, perhaps placing a hand there. You say quietly, "I am safe, I am guided. It is safe to let this go." As you repeat, you are literally inviting your nervous system to form new pathways, to rewire the habitual loop. In this way, you are not denying the old in, Her conversation, you are substituting it. This is what we might call the law of substitution. The mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts with equal strength in the same moment. You are always choosing one script or the other. When an old voice says, "It never works for me," you gently reply, "Everything is working together for my good now, in ways I see and ways I do not yet see." When the thought arises, "I am alone," you respond, "Divine love surrounds me, guides me, and goes before me. I am never alone." Over time, with repetition and feeling, the new thought takes root, and the old one withers from disuse. Think of your inner world as a vast mental factory. For years, perhaps decades, that factory has been producing according to a certain design. The workers know the pattern by heart. They turn the wheels, operate the machines, assemble the same experiences, the same arguments, the same disappointments, the same limitations. When you begin to change your inner conversation, you are handing them a new blueprint. At first they may look confused. The old design is familiar. The new one feels strange. Yet, if you persist, gently but firmly, they begin to reorganize the machinery, retrain their hands, and a new product, new experiences, new reactions, new opportunities, begins to roll off the line. There is a sacred time each day when this reprogramming becomes especially powerful. It is the time when you drift into sleep. As your body relaxes and your brain waves slow from the busy beta rhythm into the deeper alpha and theta states, the gate between conscious and subconscious mind becomes more porous. The critical analytical factor relaxes. In this twilight of consciousness, your words, images, and feelings slip more easily into the deeper mind, where they are accepted and set in motion. We may call this the sleeping method, nighttime programming of the subconscious mind. In the final moments before you sleep, you are placing orders with the infinite power within you. Many people use this sacred window to review the hurts of the day, to criticize themselves, to rehearse fears about tomorrow. They fall asleep with images of failure and conflict, and their subconscious takes these as instructions, working through the night to create more of the same. You're going to use this window differently. As you lie in your bed just before sleep, let your body grow heavy. Let your breath slow. Gently withdraw your attention from the outer world. The screens are off, the lights dim, the house quiet. Now, speak inwardly in a calm, loving tone. You might say, "Tonight, while I sleep, the infinite intelligence within me is healing my mind and body. Every cell is bathed in divine order. I let go of all fear and limitation. I am one with the source of peace, of abundance, of love. Tomorrow unfolds in harmony. All that I need is already prepared." You do not need many words. What matters is the feeling of completion, of it already being so. See yourself as you wish to be, not straining, but as a gentle scene in your mind's eye. Perhaps you see yourself waking refreshed, receiving good news, moving through your day with ease and joy. Perhaps you see a particular goal already accomplished, a bill paid, a relationship healed, a project realized. Allow this image to become the last imprint upon your mind before sleep. The subconscious, always listening, receives it as a seed. Throughout the night, like a quiet spiritual engine, it turns this seed over in the rich soil of infinite possibilities. At first, your outer life may not change dramatically. Do not be deceived by appearances. The first transformations often occur within. A calmer mood, a sudden insight, a new response where an old reaction used to be. This inner shift is the most important sign, for the inner precedes the outer. As neuroplasticity research would affirm, your brain is beginning to rewire. Old circuits of fear or self-sabotage are losing power, and new circuits of trust, confidence, and receptivity are forming. Let us walk now into another practice, visualization. Long before modern science studied the brain, sages understood that imagination is the blueprint of creation. Today, brain imaging shows that when you vividly imagine an action, many of the same neural pathways light up as if you are performing the action physically. In other words, the brain often does not distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a physically experienced one. The subconscious accepts both as real impressions. When you visualize, you are not simply daydreaming. You are drafting a divine blueprint. You are entering the mental workshop where your future is shaped. You close your eyes, and with quiet reverence, you see and feel the state you desire as already accomplished. You do not worry about the details, the intermediaries, the how. You dwell in the end. You sip the feeling of it. You inhabit it like a well-tailored garment. You let your nervous system register, "This is me now." Suppose you wish to embody abundance. In your visualization, you might see yourself engaging with life from a place of generosity and security. You see yourself paying for something with ease, grateful rather than fearful. You see numbers on a screen, not with desperation, but with calm. Yet more than the sights, you feel the emotional signature, the lightness, the trust, the sense of there is always more where this came from. That feeling is what the subconscious reads. That vibration is what your field begins to emit. As you repeat this visualization daily, especially when combined with the sleeping method, you are installing a new pattern in your subconscious programming. New opportunities are drawn to you, not by magic in the childish sense, but through the lawful resonance between your inner state and the quantum field of possibilities around you. You notice openings you would have overlooked before. You speak differently, carry yourself differently, choose differently. The world responds. Yet, as you begin this work, an old inner voice may protest, "But my reality contradicts this. Look at the bills, the diagnosis, the loneliness." That voice speaks from habit. It has been commenting on the outer conditions for many years, taking them as ultimate truth. You gently remind it, "What I see now is the harvest of old seeds. I am planting new ones. I am engaging universal law in a new way. The unseen is more real than the seen, because it is cause, not effect." You do not argue with the voice. You substitute a higher truth and let it stand. There is another layer to this transformation: secrecy and silence. In a world that encourages constant sharing, it may seem natural to broadcast your desires, your goals, your inner work. Yet there is great power in keeping certain things sacred, especially in the early stages of manifestation. A farmer does not dig up a seed every day to see if it is growing. The seed requires darkness, quiet, and time to take root. In the same way, your new inner conversation, your new assumptions, are like delicate sprouts. Exposing them too quickly to the cold winds of other people's doubts, skepticism, or casual opinions can disturb their growth. When you decide upon a new inner identity, prosperous, healthy, loved, hold it close within you. Do your scientific prayers in the silence of your own heart. Let the energy build there. As your conviction deepens, as your nervous system becomes accustomed to the new state, you radiate it naturally. People will notice the change without you announcing it. The manifestation will speak for itself. Silence is not secrecy out of fear. It is secrecy out of reverence. It is the recognition that your inner life is a holy of holies, a sacred chamber, where you meet the infinite intelligence that created you. When you enter that chamber, you do so not with anxiety, but with quiet joy, knowing that what you decree within, you will eventually experience without. Now let us descend one layer deeper into the realm of the body. The subconscious mind does not live only in your brain, it extends through your entire nervous system. Your chest tightening before a difficult conversation, your stomach clenching when you think of money, your shoulders tensing at the memory of rejection, these are the body's records of your inner conversation. They are the somatic imprints of old beliefs. When you begin to transform your inner script, do not ignore the body. It is your ally. As you catch a fearful thought, "I can't handle this," pause and notice where in your body that fear lives. Perhaps in the throat as a constriction, perhaps in the belly as a knot. Breathe into that place. Place a hand there if you wish. Speak to your body as you would to a child. "Thank you for trying to keep me safe. It's okay now. We are choosing a new way." Then introduce a new inner statement. "I am supported by life. I am equal to this moment. There is a solution already present." Over time, the body learns. The tight places soften, breathing becomes deeper. The heart's electromagnetic field, which is constantly interacting with the world around you, begins to carry a different signal, less of hypervigilance, more of coherence. This coherence draws to you experiences that match its frequency, cooperation instead of conflict, ease instead of struggle, synchronicity instead of apparent chaos. The transformation of inner conversation is not done in one night. You have rehearsed your old lines for many years. You spoke them in moments of stress, taught them to yourself when you were vulnerable. Now you are rehearsing new lines, new roles, new scenes. Be patient with yourself. The universal law is immediate in its response, but gradual in its expression. The seed begins to sprout beneath the soil before anything green breaks through the surface. Consider now a story, not as a theory, but as a living example of these principles at work. There was a man, quiet and diligent, who had grown up hearing, "You will never amount to much. You are not like those successful people." He carried this conviction into adulthood. He took jobs below his ability, turned down opportunities, avoided responsibility. Each time something promising appeared, an inner voice cut in. "This isn't for you. Who do you think you are?" His outer life faithfully mirrored his inner script. Years passed, and he lived in a small, constrained world, resentful yet resigned. One day, in a moment of deep weariness, he encountered the idea that his inner conversation was not describing his life, it was creating it. Something in him stirred. For the first time he saw that the phrase, "Who do you think you are?" was not a question, but a sentence of limitation, issued in childhood and never revoked. That night he lay in bed and decided to try a new experiment. He whispered to himself, slowly and deliberately, "I am valuable. I am capable. I am guided to right action. I am worthy of success." The words felt foreign, almost unreal, yet he persisted. He did this every night, using the sleeping method. In the morning he repeated these statements quietly as he brushed his teeth, as he walked to work, as he paused between tasks. When the old voice said, "You are nothing," he substituted, "I am a unique expression of infinite intelligence. There is something I am here to do that no one else can do in exactly the same way." At first, nothing seemed to change, yet inside him, neural pathways were beginning to shift. The subconscious was receiving new orders. Weeks later, an opportunity arose at his workplace, a chance to lead a small project. The old pattern would have made him shrink back, but the new inner conversation nudged him forward. "You are capable. You are guided." He said yes. The project went well. His confidence grew. New possibilities opened. In time, his outer life began to reorganize around the new belief. I am someone who brings value. I am equal to good. The world, through co-workers, clients, and circumstances, reflected that assumption back to him, as surely as a mirror reflects an image. What changed? The universal law did not suddenly start working in his favor. It had always been working. What changed was the blueprint, the conversation he kept with himself. Now turn this story inward. You are listening to these words because something in you is ready for a similar shift. The specifics of your story may be different. Perhaps your limiting inner conversation has been about love. I am always abandoned. People leave me. I am too much or not enough. Perhaps it has been about health. In my family we are all sick. This is how it must be. Perhaps it has been about spiritual worth. I am not good enough for grace. Whatever the script, understand this. It is not who you are. It is a pattern that has been playing through you. And what has been learned can be unlearned. What has been written can be rewritten.